Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. Well, today we have the MacBook Air out. This is the 2020 version, so first M1. Now, this is the very bottom of the barrel. Okay, so 8 gigs of RAM, 250 gig hard drive, 8-core CPU, and a 7-core GPU. And as you know, with the M1 processors, everything is on one chip. So, CPU, GPU, RAM, and your SSD drive, all on one chip. Anyway, it has some advantages to it that I must agree with, okay? But it does also have disadvantages that we've talked about before, especially in the gaming area. You never ever integrate graphics on the same chip as your CPU. You always keep that graphics processor separate and give it its own dedicated video RAM, okay? Otherwise, gaming is really going to suck bad. And of course, we know we can't run Boot Camp with Windows anymore. Thank you for that, Apple, with your M1 chip. But that's not Apple's fault entirely. That has to do with Microsoft and Qualcomm, apparently. Because Qualcomm said, no, you can run Boot Camp with Windows on an Intel Mac, we don't care, but you're not doing it on M1s. And I'm thinking it's probably because they're scared. They should be. Anyways, so I don't know if we'll get it back or not, but we do have Parallels, a program in which I would definitely say don't touch. I don't know about the other two that are out. One of them is an open source one, and the other one, of course, is another pay by the year plan, like Parallels. However, I do know enough about Parallels from my research and homework that I'm going to tell you, if you do run it, kiss your hard drive or SSD drive goodbye within a year. It's going to kill it, because when you boot up Parallels just on its own, it's still going after virtual memory. No matter how much RAM you have in your computer, it could be 8 gigs, 16 gigs, doesn't matter. It automatically goes after your swap space on your drive for virtual memory. And it's using it. And so things get even worse when you're going to start running Windows, right, within Parallels. And yeah, just all heck breaks loose. And that's kind of the way it goes. But you know what? You pay a price for anything you want to do. Now, it is true, however, you can run a bunch of multiple programs at once and not really see a performance hit. Well, I agree with that. You won't. Why? Because the SSDs in these things crank out at over 2,000, almost 3,000 megabits per second. Now that's megabits per second, not megabytes per second. A lot of channels have that mixed up. I don't know, maybe they're confused. But it is megabits per second. Because nothing right now runs 2,897 megabytes per second for a transfer rate. Okay? Just doesn't happen. However, that being said, because everything's integrated, your unified RAM, as Apple's dubbed it, not only is for program memory and operating system memory, it is also for your video memory. And with the operating system already taking away virtually 4 gigs of your RAM, yeah, that doesn't leave you much left over for programs, does it? No, of course it doesn't. And there are programs that can get pretty raunchy, even with them not being games. In fact, video editing, if you're going to use a serious video editing program like, you know, Final Cut or DaVinci Pro or DaVinci 17, then DaVinci Resolve 17, that is, you are going to definitely be hauling back some serious RAM that you just don't have, and you're going to be running virtual environment, which you're going to see a lot of glitching, farting, dropped frames, that sort of thing. So even going with an external drive isn't going to help you out any. And the only external drive you should be using is a Thunderbolt drive. And they get costly, by the way. So I would rather pay Apple their blood money for even going to even a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte SSD, as opposed to having to put on an external Thunderbolt drive, okay? Which is the only thing you could plug into the Air, and that's it, because you need your power cable in there if you're going to keep your Air plugged in. So, because we only have 2 ports. And if you run on battery power, well, there's no performance hit, which is great, plugged in or not, but that only frees up 1 port for one other thing. Makes it really hard if you're trying to hook a studio into one of these things and using it for studio recording. This is why these are base level user machines, no matter which way you look at the configuration. They're not for professional use, although some channels will convince you that, yeah, you can use them in a professional environment. Works just fantastic. Oh man, I'm telling you, I don't know about these kids. Guys, you guys know, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. I have been an Apple certified technician for over 30 years, and a PC certified tech for over 28 years. And I'm going to tell you that you do not use top professional software on a base machine, okay? I mean, these machines were not designed for that kind of torture day in and day out. You need pro level Macs for pro level stuff. Now, if you're a YouTuber, you're doing podcasting, you do your own music like I do, Logic Pro is fantastic because it is professional audio software, which for a little studio like mine, it's very sufficient. But you're not going to run an entire full-fledged recording studio on a professional level with professional musicians and do that on a MacBook Air, or even on the iMac, or even on the Mac Mini. Even if you jack these things up to 16 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte of drive, and you have powered hubs with extra drives on it, you're not going to do that sort of stuff. Not that kind of pro level, okay? But for little old me who's a one-man band, I can get away with that stuff with these things and still run pro-level DAWs. Now, as far as video editing goes, yep, 8 gigs of RAM, you can sneak it with iMovie as long as you're not doing anything too intense. The more intense you get, the more RAM it wants, and yep, it's going to go and it's going to suck up all that RAM. 8 gigs doesn't go very far anymore. So 16 gigs, you'd be fine. If you're thinking about games, yes, there are a lot of games that will run on M1 chips, okay? And that's fine. But there's an awful lot of games that will not run, period. And I even have a game collection from my Intel machines that they ran on Monterey on an Intel processor just fine, but they don't even run with a bean stick on the M1s, where they ran fine on the Intel. And it's like, okay, that's kind of weird. We are using Rosetta 2 after all. Oh yeah, emulation slugs things down. Anyway, so that's bad. M1 certified apps, though, they work absolutely awesome on this machine. And of course, Logic Pro, iMovie, GarageBand, these are all M1 certified, and you can also run them under Rosetta and see what the performance differences are like too, and how much more of hogs they become. Now, a game like Minecraft, of course, we've proved this on my channel once already. I have a 16 gig of RAM in my Mini, and after just a couple of minutes of just flying around doing nothing except mindlessly rendering graphics in front of us, leaving other stuff behind pre-rendered, we were chewing up over 8 gigs in no time. Now, after almost an hour of pounding blocks and building stuff the other day in Minecraft, on my Mini, I checked on my activity monitor, I was over 11 gigs of RAM in total use. Now, 4 gigs of that is the OS. The rest of it is the program and all the graphics memory it wants to hog. And it can only hog so much, because you only got 5 gigs tops, right? At least that's what I found out. So that kind of makes things into perspective, that if you try running Minecraft on a MacBook or any base model Mac period that only has 8 gigs of RAM, especially with the M1 chips these days, then yep, you are definitely going to be running the virtual memory very, very fast, and you are going to cook your drive, because SSD drives, folks, are not designed or intended for the purpose of being used as virtual memory swap drives. They will burn up fast, okay? Anyway, we'll talk about ports and the kind of amperage they put out at a later date, but I wanted to go over some things I found out, okay? And I haven't even fired up Minecraft because I don't need to. I'm not about to torture my poor little hard drive with virtual memory. And of course, Parallels is definitely out of the question on any computer, period. You should not be running it. Even though I know it's the only Windows Resolve we have right now, you cannot assign that virtual memory to go to an external drive and torture it. It's going to torture your internal. It's not an option, and you will cook the drive. And that brings us to all those videos out there where we've seen people saying, hey, you know, these Mac SSDs are, and the M1s are dying like after like not even a year. You know, it's like, yeah, well, you should have been running virtual memory or running too many programs at once. Guys, I can launch 20 programs at once and still not even hit 6 gigabytes of RAM. But it's when I start to do something with one of those programs that it starts to haul back the RAM. And I try doing something with another one, hauls back even more RAM. I'm out of RAM in no time. And on an 8 gig machine, you're out fast. I edited a video earlier on iMovie. And I mean, iMovie in itself, we fire that up here. We'll see what it's asking for in the activity monitor. There's nothing in it. Just fired up the program, that's it. iMovie wants 160 megabytes of RAM. So, okay, but what about putting a video in there and trying to do rendering and color corrections and all that stuff and rendering? I mean, that's going to really chew things back, right? And depending on how many files you're working with at once within your video to edit your video is going to depend on how fast you actually run out of that 8 gigs. Okay, and you don't even have 8 gigs, you got 4. Keep that in mind. You bought an 8 gig machine, but you only have 4 gigs. You buy a 16 gig machine, you have 12 gigs. Because the OS is taking 4, period. That's the way it goes, right? So, that's how it is. So when you even look at game specifications or program specifications, how much video does the program require? How much RAM does the program require for the recommended? Not the minimum, but the recommended. Because no matter how you look at it, it's still going to go after the recommended, even if it has to go after virtual memory. That's what programs do, right? It's kind of like Cyberpunk on my PC. Whole other story, but until I put 32 gigs of RAM into my PC, Cyberpunk kind of really sucked, you know? I mean, it wasn't bad, you know, on lower graphics, but I certainly could not run Ultra at all and get any FPS out of it. I mean, I was like, I was moving so slow just to turn around to my passenger. Now I'm like instantaneously like, boom, and I'm getting 157 FPS average now. And all I did was put an additional 16 gigs of RAM in. I don't even have the recommended video card. My video card is 4 gigs. It shares up to 20 gigs of system memory. Yippee! And I'll never use it because I'll take 4 gigs from my video. It takes another 4 gigs of my RAM, gives it the 8 gigs it needs. Game runs flawless at Ultra, and I'm getting over 150 some frames per second. Now that's playable. Oh yeah, is that ever playable? Anyways, I got other games that are running over 600 FPS now. It's like, holy cow. So, it pays to have RAM, doesn't it? And anyway, so games you gotta watch. Now, cheesy little games aren't bad. You know, I got Motorbike on here, and I've got a, what is it, Deer Rescue or Animal Rescue? Wildlife Rescue. The only 2 games I have other than chess that came with the computer. Now, here's the sad story. This is where you get to cry. Out of 250 gigs of hard drive space, we only have left available 127 gigs. I'm going to use this computer in a professional manner? I think not. I can do light video editing. Not a problem on this. It's fine with 8 gigs of RAM. Very light video editing. As long as that's the only thing running. Okay? I can do my Logic Pro, which is my professional DAW. It's way better than GarageBand. It's worth the $300, buy it. Now, I can do that to a certain point, but any files that I create, I need to save them to an external drive later because I just don't have the real estate on the internal to keep all those files on there. And besides, you should never keep anything important on your main drive anyway, other than applications, because they can always be reinstalled. But once your data is gone, it's gone, okay? There ain't no recovering it. And if you burn out your hard drive because you ran virtual memory too much and you had personal data on there, there is absolutely zero way of recovering that data. It doesn't happen. These are not hard drives. These are solid state drives, and basically they're a big chunk of RAM, okay, is what they are. The difference is they have a controller board on it that dictates to the RAM to say, look, when the guy turns off the power, you leave the programs alone. When they restart the computer, you leave things alone. When they want them gone, they'll let you know. Okay, now with regular RAM in your computer that runs your programs, every time you reboot your computer, every time you shut down your computer, it clears everything out of the RAM chips that was in there, like your OS and any programs that were up in RAM being run. Okay, because that's how your programs run faster, not just your hard drive. So yeah, you can't recover, so please keep your stuff stored on an external drive. Anyhow, so that's not a lot of space left over, and you got to think this thing's got to do me for at least the next 5 or 6 years, including any major overhauls to the operating system, which, you know, I mean, the next OS that Apple is going to be releasing above Monterey with its new name, whatever it shall be, is going to chew more RAM, and it's going to chew a lot more hard drive space, and I'm just hoping that we have enough. Because otherwise that means I got to start deleting stuff off of this or definitely moving stuff to an external drive. The unfortunate part is even with GarageBand or Logic, the main programs don't take up a lot of space. it's all those sound files that get shoved into your operating system. You can't run those from an external drive. They have to stay on the master drive. Same as other programs that run installers, they put stuff in the OS that can't be moved. So that's always going to create a problem. Now the main program itself can be moved, but there's not that many programs that actually run installers on a Mac, very few in fact. But there are some that do, nonetheless. And there are some things within the Mac that you can't even delete that are part of the OS. You're not allowed to delete them. So, wait a minute, that kind of sucks too, doesn't it? But, I mean, Windows has its thing too in that area as well. So, you have to take these into consideration. So this is why I never ever recommend base level configurations to anybody. Even all the years I sold computers for a living too. Whether I was working for another dealer or I had my own store, which I have done, I would never sell a computer with a base level configuration. And I didn't care how much somebody begged me to sell it to them. I wouldn't. I'd say, look, it's not leaving here unless you have at least this and this as a minimum, because I don't want to hear you crab later. No offense, not being mean or nasty, but I know how this stuff works. And I know what you said you wanted to do, and this is not going to last. So, if you want to deal, let's deal, you know? And it may seem a little weird way to do business with people, but you know what? People did business with me, and I didn't have to listen to them crab later either, because they were quite happy with their purchases. And I even interrupt salespeople at places like Best Buy and Staples all the time when they're talking to customers, because, I mean, salesmen, honestly, 99% of them don't know squat, and they definitely don't know squat about Mac. But even the PCs, they don't understand as much as they should. And I've actually helped a young lad out actually recently at Best Buy who's going to be watching my channel now. And I was able to help him out with a customer the other day. I don't know how the end result worked, if she actually listened to me or not, because I did advise her that for what she wants to do even, she definitely needs to custom order even the MacBook Air if that's all she's going after, with 16 by half a terabyte. Otherwise, this thing ain't going to last, you know, as a base model for her. And, you know, for me, it's going to be kind of sketchy too. But I needed to do this investment for you guys. And we are nowhere near done, okay? We are going to tear into this thing even more. And we're going to start pushing it to the limits. I'm going to do up some videos, or I'll take some of my pre-made videos and re-edit them through here to see what exactly happens, to show you how things really work in the real world when you're working with a base level Mac and what you can and can't get away with. And I think it's a good thing to be able to do this, you know, and that was one of my purposes, other than for surfing the internet on the lazy boy, or you know, a redundant backup system if something happened to my Mini while it's out for repair. At least I have no downtime, okay? And I can skimmy by, you know, and I do have some stuff I need to delete off this thing now, so that'll free up a little bit more space, but I'm going to see how much more I can actually free up, and I'll get back to you on the next video on that one. Let you know what I managed to delete and make use of. Because this is not for games, you know, this is not for doing other things with. We've already did the Cinebench thing on this. We don't need that program anymore. And a few other things that can actually go off of this or get transferred elsewhere. But anyway, hopefully this helps you guys out quite a bit already. And I know there's so much more to cover, and that's why we're going to do multiple videos. So this is kind of an information video, I guess, based on the MacBook Air, okay? I would love to really class it as a first impression and extras, but I think we need to really seriously look at this as an information video than anything. I mean, we're not anywhere near a review time period yet. I have so much more to do with this yet before I can actually give you a review. For once, a product that's actually going to make me work for the review. That's amazing. Wow. I did something. Anyway, so in the meantime, guys, thanks for watching and hanging out. If you're not subbed, hey, and you want to know more, please subscribe. Hit the like button if you liked the video. If you didn't, well, I know what you're going to do anyway. And don't forget to smash that bell for notifications if you do sub, so you can get new updates, sending new videos, and do stay tuned for more. We have a lot of really cool stuff planned over the next little bit. because I'm going to be making some orders in the next day or two that, oh, I'm going to have some fun. So we're going to have a lot of stuff for the channel for you guys. Anyways, see ya.